afternoon, everyone. We're getting ready to open up this zoning board meeting for June the 3rd, 2024, 6 p.m. Monday afternoon.
And if, we could I get a motion to approve the minutes from the Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on November 27th, 2023? I sent those out to you all.
November 27th.
November 27th, 2023.
I make a motion that we approve our minutes from our meeting November 27, 2022.
It's been moved and properly second that the minutes from, what month was that?
November
November
27th,
27th,
2022.
2022,
23.
23.
23, wow, went all the way back.
23 was approved. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Okay. Motion carried. Bam, bam. Okay, Mr. Vinovic, bring us.
Tonight, we're here for two public hearings. We have two parcels that are owned by Rock River Homes, Inc., and they are represented tonight by Mr. Jeff Lavelle, who is actually the surveyor to put these together. Both of these lots, which are the last two remaining unbuilt upon lots in this particular phase of Farmington subdivision, both have requirements of a stormwater detention pond or structure that has to be built on both lots. If you went out there, they're fairly deep, drop off to a creek, or fairly steep and drop off to a creek. And what they are requesting is a variance from 100 feet setbacks, which are typical or required in that zoning district, to a 50-foot setback. This is the same subdivision where you guys handled a variance request because of the overhead power lines, if you remember.
Right.
Not too terribly long ago, it's a couple lots over. The requirement, Mr. Chairman, if you would grant it, is to have two separate public hearings, because it is two separate matters and two separate voting, and two separate motions. Property is in the RS Residential Suburban District, requires a half-acre lot. The subdivision was recorded in 2007. It was recorded 17 years ago. The stormwater detention came after the fact. So the reason this subdivision was developed the way it was because it was approved prior to any of those documents, and that's not the way this is to be done. You have to have all your documents, or for the staff to sign the plat so it can be recorded. All those documents have to be in hand. Like Farmington, the future phases of Farmington, water plans, sewer plans, stormwater plans, road plans, those all have to be submitted and approved and prepared by gentlemen like Jeff or B&B Consultants, and then the plat can be signed. This particular plat was signed before those documents were delivered. The water and sewer was put into the subdivision, and the road was paved after this current owner purchased it. But in doing so, I've done enough of these that we came back and required, and I think it was Hurt and Profit that did the stormwater detention plans and stormwater plans, and they've been submitted to DEQ. And these two lots are the last two for the simple reason because they have these structures that have to be built on them. And the gentleman's asking for a variance from the 100-foot setback to a 50-foot setback on the front, not on the sides or the rear, because of the presence of these detention ponds, which were not part of the original subdivision plan. They were recorded.
Is there a requirement for the size of the stormwater retention pond?
I think so. If you look at your survey, those are the rough exterior boundaries that will be within that easement area. I can pull the plans
And
and
there'll
find
be
one.
one for each lot?
There's one, this is
It's
that
two
particular
separate
lot.
plats.
This is lot 10A, and lot 9A is a little bit smaller. Okay, this one has a discharge easement. Pretty significant as well. And it's oxymoron of government. We're trying to protect water quality, and I bet you there's a dozen very, very large oak trees that are slated to be taken down so that they can put in stormwater protection.
So this plan shows like the as far as feet, I can look at the plan and see feet for like the setbacks and all that sort of stuff.
Yes,
It
sir.
does not have,
if you're looking at 50 by 50 there, I would say you're looking at least 70 by 100, but I can scale it for you if you like. I may have some originals. I can pull the scale if you'd like.
The second one looks like it.
Yeah, you just can't, you can't scale off a duplicated copy because it's not.
Right.
But as part of finishing the subdivision and releasing the bond, the detention structures will have to be installed. We do the whole, a performance bond.
Ms. Dane,
And is there
Ms. Dane, Jennifer,
certain
Ms.
fees that
Toon, have we heard anything?
the dwelling has to be from the retention?
Not that I'm aware of. The only restriction that we have is that it has to be a certain number of feet from the rear property line or the side property line. We don't have a specific setback off the detention bond. Are you familiar with any that DEQ may have? I'm not.
And is 50 the max that can be done?
Pardon?
Is 50 the max that can be done? I know they're requesting
They're requesting
is 50.
They can move it back a little bit. If you look at the scale to the drawings, I mean, they could be moved back another 5, 8 feet, 7 feet, something like that, and still be outside. I just don't know house design, whether there's gonna be a significant porch built on the property or something like that.
I just was curious, because that's half of what the requirement is. That's 50 is half of what you're saying the requirement is, so
Well,
that's,
less than
yeah.
100, but it's still significantly more than the majority of town, which is 35. So,
okay.
other than this district, if you look at.
You said
the
R2,
green
right?
areas, it's 35 setback.
But you said R2.
And the R2 is all,
Yeah.
and the R3 is all 35-foot setbacks. I can pull,
On that
Oh, that's
movement
fine.
of the setback, would that give the contractor what they need to work with that, retention pond back there?
excuse me?
With the setback, the 50-foot setback, will that give the contractor?
That's what they're saying. 50
No.
foot would
Yeah.
solve their
Issue.
setback issue or keep them from building a house in a detention or reserved area for a detention pond. R1 front setback is 35 feet, so everywhere except this one particular subdivision, residential, zoning district, the rest of the town has a
35.
35-foot setback. This is 100, so it's almost 3 times
Yeah.
the rest of town.
Is there, so what is the reason why that zone's differently than the rest of it?
Well, I was asked that earlier, and in 1992, the town of Blackstone annexed basically the Epicton Forest area, Walmart, the Food Line Shopping Center area, pretty much everything south of 10th Street.
Right.
Okay, 10th Street was kind of the old brick welcome sign is at 10th Street for a reason, because that's the old town limits. So everything south of here was annexed into town, and I suspect, I wasn't here in 92, but I suspect the folks who lived out there liked it kind of quiet, they liked it kind of peaceful, they liked it kind of pastoral, okay?
Yeah.
And so the town created some big lots, half-acre lots. For a town on water and sewer, a half acre is pretty big. Rest of town, quarter-acre lots, okay? So they require a half-acre lot, bigger lots, bigger setbacks, just to kind of keep it more pastoral. And I guess that was a negotiated agreement with the neighbors that were gonna be annexed in the town, and the town of Blackstone.
Is
It's
there-
conjecture, but I suspect that's
Is
why.
there an expiration on that agreement?
No, there's nothing in writing. I mean, they just created the zoning, people came to the public hearings, and it was adopted. But no, I don't think there's an agreement between the neighborhood association and the
I mean,
town.
like, that there's something keeping it from being turned into R2?
No, I don't think there's anything prohibiting you from doing that, but I would not do that. I think the people that bought houses down there have an intention that it's gonna be half-acre lots. The setback, I wouldn't be coming to you tonight except for the detention pond during the winter. That's the other lots, except for the power line lot, all have the 100-foot setback. So, there's a new house that was just, put under roof Friday. If you go down College and you look directly in front of you, there's a new house going in over there. And, I mean, it's 100 feet off the right of way. Cause it didn't have a justification, didn't have a good reason to say I can't make 100. Power lines, detention ponds, those are the things that make variances likely. But in 1992, I don't know if it was universally agreed by the residents of Effingham Forest that they wanted to be in the town. I don't think it was a unanimous vote, but the town did put in sewer down there. And if you remember in 2007, I believe, or in 2006, Mr. Burrows brought a rezoning application where he wanted to put a nursing home here. Remember that? Those of you that lived around here, you may remember that, but he wanted to put a nursing home down here and was turned down
I'm very familiar with all of those.
with the understanding that we want residential, we want low density residential, and thus the half acre lots and that sort of thing. So his rezoning was turned down, and I'm gonna tell you it's 07, 05, but it was it was pre-recordation of the subdivision plat.
Okay.
Two public hearings. One will be on lot 10A, and one will be on lot 9A, and those are labeled on your subdivision plat, or your plat, in the description at the bottom of the diagram. Mr. Chairman, if you'll open up the public hearing.
Okay. Now, it's, now open up for the public hearing
You wanna start with lot 10A?
For lot 10A.
for lot 10A. Yes.
And this is the one that's closest to the intersection of College, the closer of the two.
Okay. So are there anyone to speak for this
I'll
project?
speak for.
Okay.
I think, for some clarification, when you go down College Road and you hit that first phase of Farmington, all right, so the first phase of Farmington didn't build that road all the way to the cul-de-sac. It built it halfway around that curve, or up to the curve in the road, was the first phase. That's what was approved. Whatever happened when they did the subdivision plat that got approved, should have only been approved for phase one, which would have been up to the curve.
That's what was recorded in 2007. The plans that had been submitted to the town stopped here in the curve.
But the whole plat for the whole subdivision got recorded. So when that happened, the stormwater management.
think we have that.
systems were not designed yet because phase two hadn't been designed. And if you go in College Road, when you get to where, if you go past the new left, and you just go to the end of the pavement right there, if you look to your right, there's a stormwater management pond that was for phase one. That's how it should have been. So after the fact, these stormwater management ponds are there to run off from the road, let it set on the pond, and trickle to the stream. That's what its purpose is. So once they designed that, it really put a hurting on lot 10A. And to have any backyard, the request of 50 foot, you could shorten it a little bit, but then you're putting it where you're dropping right off in that pond at the back door. And I think 50 foot is a fair request.
Right.
And do you feel with the 50 foot that they have enough room to build and do it?
I do, and I think they could build a house and build a pond later. But I would suggest build a pond first, because then you have equipment around that house.
I would say definitely build the pond first.
We need the pond done because these will be the last two lots, and we need to have these ponds done so that we can release the bond on the road.
Absolutely do the
And-
ponds first. Now, do the ponds have any requirement, specific, vegetation be planted in them
I'd have to
that
look
would
at,
absorb?
I'd have to look at the plans for that B&B, and I won't, it's her profit.
When they're building these houses, we wanna get these ponds done. That would be the plan, to get that done, because I really do need to get that bond given back to Corey.
And they need that
Project
pond to
Plan.
get, they need the ponds to be done, because to go further with the next phase, that's gotta be done, because DEQ is not gonna release anything else until that's done.
How about future erosion? You think that need to be considered?
It should all be considered in hurt and profits plan. You know, there's some, I don't wanna say yearly, but there's benchmarks on these storm ponds that at certain times they have to be cleaned out, or certain things have to be done, some maintenance to them. The grass needs to be cut around them sometime. It's all in what the narrative, the erosion control narrative says in that plan.
Will you guys be putting riprap around the ponds to keep them from eroding?
Maybe just out of the discharge, but I don't think
Yeah,
that's
just at the
their
discharge.
lines, you know?
Yeah, because anything upstream, the dam or the pond's gonna stop it. If it's an erosion issue, then it's gonna have to be repaired at some point. that's what it's there for, it's to stop the erosion. It'll have riprap coming out of it. That's called an energy dissipator. It's supposed to slow the water down and let it trickle to the stream. The ponds are, I commend Hurt and Profit because they figured out how to do it with some really small ponds. I would've thought they'd been bigger. But they've got them approved by DEQ, so they gotta be the right size.
Is there anybody else speaking for this property?
I have a quick question. Are there any, and Jeff, you might know this better than I do, but are there any distance requirements for building or adding anything onto this house with how far it has to be away from the easement?
No,
So,
it just can't be in it.
can't be in,
It
okay.
can't be in it.
I was only asking just, 50
So-
by 50, that's kind of, if you look at some of Rock River Homes' smallest homes, which you include their average deck size is, 10 by 12, 12 by 15, you're pretty much taking that whole 50 by 50 up, so if anybody extended or added anything,
The house will most likely be 50,
I don't know which one they were building.
and it's
that's what I
gonna
was
be
curious.
28 or 30 deep, and then it's gonna have a little bump out on the back that adds a bigger bedroom. So it ends up, one side or the other will be close to the 50-foot depth.
I won't worry about that, like I
But
said,
the 50 by 50
they add.
should hold their decks and everything. That's how they do it.
And that's part of the primary structure. And
Oh, yeah,
anything that-
well, I wasn't curious about what's going there now, I was thinking more
Long
Yeah,
term.
right.
long-term, down the road, somebody purchases the home, what's, any issues that they might have. Obviously, these probably are gonna have garages on them, so it'd be something that's detached, so I was just making sure that, hey, they look like they're fairly close enough to where it's set right, to where you won't have any boundary line issues with that. That's what I was more curious
Should
about.
work, I mean, those easements are gonna be shown.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna be
Right,
shown.
Recorded document at the courthouse. and
I was
anybody
more
should be able to-
concerned of maybe, should we consider, since everything else is around is at 35 feet, maybe consider bringing closer. But if it seems like there's not gonna be any issues, when you're looking here, I think, 10A would be the only one, but like you said, as long as you're not building on top of the easement, then you're fine. So, that's all I was curious about. I wanna make sure there wasn't no 15-foot setback, 10-foot setback
Yeah, I'm,
requirement.
nothing from the town, and I'm not sure if
Well,
you mean.
I'm gonna say the dreaded words that I don't like to say. RPA, we don't have an RPA in Nottaway County, and I hope to God we never get one.
What is an RPA?
Resource Protection Area. And that is a buffer around all streams, creeks, rivers,
Yep.
ponds, lakes.
Basically what you've got around Lee Lake.
And, right,
A right
and then you
area buffer.
have a 25-foot buffer from the, or setback, not a buffer, a 25-foot setback. So you can have a 200-foot RPA and a 25-foot buffer. And we do not want that.
No. Well, I wouldn't think, now, do they even require that on these retention ponds like this? I didn't think
Not on
so.
the retention.
Yeah. That was all I had. Thank you.
So if you build the retention pond first, will DEQ have to come out and inspect it before the home is built?
I don't know how that, I don't know if the egg comes first or the chicken. I just don't know there. I personally think the pond needs to be built first. I think Philip wants to see the pond built first. And I think
Wrap
no
this
building
subdivision
permit
up.
should be issued until the pond is built first. But that's just me saying that.
Now, are you able to request that? That the,
Well, I'm holding his bond, worst case scenario, we cash a bond on it and put them in ourselves. That's not preferable, nobody wants to do that, developer don't want that, we don't want that, nobody wants that, so, I talked to Corey about it, and our conversation's been, before we move on to the next phase of Farmington, we gotta get this done, okay? So, we need to wrap that up, and, I haven't pushed him on the other lots, because it's not required, or they're not affected by it, but we need to go ahead and wrap this whole thing up, so. I am gonna have that conversation with him, but what I have told him is that we don't wanna move forward with the new stuff until this old stuff is cleaned up and resolved.
Are there any more comments for this property? Is there anyone to speak against this property? Or,
I got one little quick comment, and it's after the fact, you can't do nothing about it right now. 20 years ago, there was a police car that backed over into
Oh, wow.
So when you go to Henrico, you look at all the storm ponds, and they are required to put fences around. Might be something you wanna think about in the future.
So is that something we could require?
I think you
No.
gotta write a rule and have a
You have to have
Yeah.
a rule in place to do that.
Yeah.
I
So
think
that
in
would
the
come
future,
through who?
You can have this conversation with a set of rules and standards.
But through who? What committee would do
I
that?
think that would, if that's a rule, the rules are established by planning commission and council.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That'll probably pass fast, cause you know, you got the little kids wandering around after school.
But you know, I haven't seen much water in the one at the York.
It isn't, but if you go over and look at the one, there's one right there behind where Eric's got the duplexes. And he's went in there,
He's got an aerator in that thing.
he's done cleaned that thing up, he turned it into a little fishing pond.
Yeah, fishing pond.
But that one's deep, that one's about neck deep, cause I've been in that one.
It does have an aerator for sure.
Okay, now hereby close the public hearing on lot 10A. You wanna go right into lot 9A?
You wanna act on this one and resolve it and vote on 10A? You can, and before we get started on the next.
Okay.
If that's your preference, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, like I asked for anybody to speak for, against, and we close it.
Well, are we moving on to the next one, or are we still at 10A?
10A.
Still on tonight.
Okay.
10A. We need a, floor is open for a motion on this property. 10A.
I make a motion that we accept this,
The 50-foot.
request, for lot 10A.
50-foot setback.
I second the motion.
It's been properly moved and second that, it approved that we would accept the 50-foot setback. All in favor of said motion?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carried.
Ladies and gentlemen, on the lot 9A, I think we're talking virtually the same sort of situation. And this is a little bit further up the cul-de-sac. This is the one that's a little bit farther. Same
Right.
situation, you got a stormwater detention pond, and again, we'll try to have that completed at the time the homes are finished, so we can close the subdivision out and receive maintenance money to maintain the road. We haven't spent any money down there yet, but sooner or later, potholes are gonna appear, and we won't be reimbursed for those. If the subdivision hadn't been finished, it would be the responsibility of the developer still, or for us to cash the bond, which nobody wants. That's just a bad situation, so. But it is the option, the purpose of the bond is to make sure that the road gets taken into the town system based on a VDOT standard.
Will the contractor be working on these houses at the same time, or are you gonna complete one?
I'm gonna
Then
say
go right
no, but I
into-
can't swear to it. But his modus operandi so far has been build a spec, sell it, build the next spec, sell it, build the next spec, sell it, build the next one. And he's got one under construction now. I dare say he'll do one at a time. Care to add to that?
Lot 8 is a cul-de-sac.
Pardon? Pardon?
Lot 9A, it's like a cul-de-sac.
It's part- yeah.
There's homes on both of those lots.
Okay, Mr. Benovic? Go with,
Same presentation.
Okay.
Same
except
thing.
For it's a different lot, and, again, the variance condition or the standard would hold the same. Pushing it to 100 feet is gonna create that variance, that hardship not commonly shared by the property, and put their asphalt back there in the middle of the detention pond, which we wanna have.
the floor is now open for anyone to speak. Okay, well, hereby open public hearing. Is there anyone to speak for this property?
I'd like to make one more thing clear, that when Philip says it's done, it's finished, and DEQ approves it, you gotta understand that that's graded and vegetated, grass growing, the whole 9 yards. So, you know, the Perk and Profits plan, there may be bales, there may be check dams, there may be, you know, there may be other things involved in this, but all that will have to be in place in order to release the bond.
Well, they're gonna have somebody checking these things as they go.
DEQ.
Okay,
A representative from DEQ will come out there and physically walk it and look at it.
okay.
As VDOT has already come down and inspected the road, we adopted a resolution for the road to go into the state system, and VDOT has come and done the inspection. It's my expectation that when we receive our annual list of streets, that this street will be on that,
Added to it.
added to that. My expectation.
Okay.
No one from VDOT has contacted us and said they have a flaw or an error or,
They normally give you a punch list of
I didn't even
things they
receive a
want you
punch
to do.
list. And Diana Bryan indicated the inspectors would have been on the property or looked at it.
Okay, so, sir, you have any comment this time? You have any more comments?
I actually like the layout of this a lot better than the last one.
Okay. Is there anyone present that will speak against this property? Since nobody jumped up, I hereby close the public hearing. And we're ready, floor ready for a motion on property 9A. Lot 9A, excuse me.
Oh, my turn? I believe we should have a motion to pass this.
I make a motion. Say I make a motion
I'll make a
in
motion
9A.
that we pass this.
Are you seconding it?
I second.
Proper motion is second that lot 9A be approved. All in favor, let it be known by the usual sign.
Aye.
All opposed? Not opposed, motion carried. Thank you.
As I drive the clerk crazy by saying such things, I offer to you, if you have any development questions of what's going on in town, planning commission, I usually give them a moment at the end of planning commission meetings if they have a curiosity of a development project or they see lots being cleared or something. If you have anything in town that you've seen, if I can answer any questions that you may have about those, I'll be more than happy to do so. Okay?
This is not pertaining to these properties that we just discussed.
Yes, sir.
I rode up on Maven Avenue, is that Maven? I see where they have cleaned off that area.
It's a subdivision that was approved by Town Council and Planning Commission. It's 4 lots that are almost a horseshoe shape around behind the Johnson property, okay? 2 on each side of that home. And it'll be, my understanding, there'll be duplexes built. They have not applied for a building permit, but it'll be duplexes very similar to the ones on Church Street.
Today, so the houses are on the ground.
Yeah.
Houses are duplexes.
The stakes are on the ground.
Duplexes?
Yes. Now, there was one
Avenue
change.
to come
Okay.
across Amelia,
Right,
come
The
to
50-foot
Nottaway, make a
Gap
right
is
quickly
shoved over to one
okay.
side.
at the end of that street, or in the middle to the end.
And I don't think that was a good idea, but
Duplexes, 4 duplexes are intended to be built on Maple Avenue.
Church Street, property on Church Street that they're working on.
be the same house.
Duplex is similar to what's being built
On Church Street,
on,
Okay.
that are under construction. Like if you're going out to Wilkerson Tire,
You said you
On the
didn't
right.
think it was a good idea? Is that what you said?
no,
I
this is
said
something.
Be the same house that's
Oh.
being built on Church Street.
Oh, I misunderstood.
What he was saying, that in order, because they used the majority of their frontage, in order to preserve some usefulness for the backland, which is behind these lots,
Right,
there was a 50-foot stem that was included. And that 50-foot stem was put in between the 2
We're
parcels.
basically had between them.
And Dennis, the owner, I assume, wanted to move it, which is what he thought was a bad idea.
Which leaves a buffer between the existing house and the houses that they're building. So it does kind of benefit the neighboring property a little bit.
It's still a 50-foot stem that goes back to the residual property to the rear. And the reason for the 50-foot stem is ultimately that could be the width of a right-of-way. If it were to be a street built in there, you'd have enough road. So that was the intention.
It's gonna do
But
something.
since those lots aren't for sale, they're for rent, he could widen that with an easement or a slope easement or utility easement if he needed to.
Be great improvement for that neighborhood, for that
Wow.
street.
oh, good.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
We have a blighted home on 200 Maven Avenue that we're working on, trying to slowly but surely start seeing some more investment improvement in the neighborhood.
Oh, good.
Do you have any other questions? Nothing?
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all for your time.
Yes, if we do not have any other business, hereby have the BZA meeting today closed until the next business date.
6:32.
There are two.
Thank you all.